Everyone wanted something from my dad. Paris Jackson said that when she was 15 years old. She wasn't angry when she said it. She wasn't crying. She was just stating a fact she had grown up knowing without ever being told. But the most shocking part, you still haven't heard it. She was 11 years old when she figured out her father was the most famous man on earth. He had never explained it to her. She just slowly, gradually, inevitably understood. And by the time she did, she also understood something else. Something most people who loved Michael Jackson from a distance never had to learn. That behind every concert, every headline, every person who reached out with a smile and an extended hand was the same simple truth. Everyone wanted something from him. She lost his hand in a crowd once. She was 6 years old, terrified, surrounded by thousands of strangers pushing in from every direction. And then she felt him, snatching her up, running, getting her out. That was Michael Jackson, the father. Not the icon. Not the king of pop. The man who ran. Let me tell you what Paris Jackson actually said. Not the headlines, not the edited clips. The full account of the father, the home, the life that existed behind every door the world was never allowed to open. And now everything changed. Paris's first memory of her father is a birthday party. She was 3 years old, a pink Barbie cake, a loud room, and him, seated at the head of the table, her on his left. That is her first memory, not a concert, not a performance, a birthday cake and her father's face. She grew up at Neverland Ranch, and she has said with the specific clarity of someone who has had time to understand what their childhood actually was, that she thought it was normal. She and her brothers did not know many children their own age. They rarely left the ranch. They did not have a reference point for comparison. So they compared their lives to nothing, which meant that having an amusement park in your backyard and a zoo on your property was simply what home looked like. Michael would use the amusement park as a reward. If they were good, he would take them to the zoo, the rides, the train station. And they were good, because why wouldn't you be when that was the consequence of being good? This is the part people miss when they talk about Neverland as evidence of eccentricity or dysfunction. Paris was there. She lived there. And what she describes is not a disturbed man building a monument to his own delusion. She describes a father who was trying to give his children the experience of joy, the specific, uncomplicated, physical joy of an amusement park on a summer afternoon, because he understood, from the inside, what it cost a child not to have that. Wait, don't miss this detail. They traveled constantly. Paris, Prince, and Biggie, who was then still called Blanket, moving through the world in a way that most children never do. Paris's favorite memories are Paris, Japan, Bahrain, Ireland. But her father never explained why they were traveling. He would say, "Pack your bags tonight, we're leaving tomorrow." And they would pack their bags. She and Prince would make pillow forts in hotel rooms. They would blast their father's music, off the wall, over and over, and jump around the room. This is what Paris Jackson remembers about growing up with Michael Jackson. Pillow forts, buttered popcorn at the movies, jumping on hotel beds to off the wall. When they went to Disneyland, he wore a disguise, a wig, a costume. He would walk through the park like a normal person. And Paris has said that those were the days when he was happiest, when no one knew he was Michael Jackson, when he could exist inside the ordinary world without the weight of what his name meant pressing down on everything. She says, "I think that's what he wanted at the end, to just not be Michael Jackson." You still haven't seen the biggest surprise. Paris did not grow up knowing her father was famous. Not really. Not in the way that mattered. They went to his concerts when she was 6 or 7. Enormous concerts, thousands of people. And she watched him perform and thought he was amazing. But she did not process the scale of what she was seeing. She was a child watching her father, that was all. She would travel through crowds with him sometimes. Real crowds, the kind that forms around Michael Jackson wherever he goes. And she and Prince would get stepped on. Biggie was too small, so he was always carried. But Paris and Prince would be in the crowd, getting jostled, getting stepped on. And then one time, she lost his hand. She was 6 years old. She lost his hand in the crowd, and she panicked. The specific animal panic of a child who has lost their parent in a place full of strangers. And then she felt him. He found her and snatched her up and ran. Ask yourself what it feels like to be the person who has to run. The most famous person in the world, responsible for getting his child out of a crowd that has gathered specifically because of him. A crowd that would not exist if he did not exist. And his child, in the middle of it, lost. He ran. I can't believe this either, but keep watching. Paris describes her father in terms that nobody in the media ever used about him while he was alive. She says he was kind. She says he was the sweetest guy. She says he was like a dove, innocent, gentle. She says she cannot imagine anyone having a better father than him. She also says he taught her about the industry, about the bad people, about what the world does to the people it decides to consume. He told her, there are a lot of people out there who will do anything to put you down. Make up rumors, take you to court with lies. Everyone wants something from people. He told his daughter this. He sat her down and told her what the world had done to him, so that she would be prepared for what the world might do to her. And here's the thing, no one ever talks about. Michael Jackson's most important lesson to his daughter was not about music. It was not about performance or talent or how to work an audience. It was one sentence. He told her, always be humble. Don't get too big-headed. Don't be conceited. Appreciate what you have. The man who moonwalked across stages in front of 200,000 people told his daughter that the most important thing was humility. Paris has said she is his #1 fan. She said it with a laugh, because she knows how that sounds, and she knows nobody will argue with her. But she means it. She is proud of him. She is proud to be his daughter. And she will, she has said, always defend him. When Michael died in June 2009, Paris was 11 years old. She stood at his public memorial at the Staples Center, a memorial attended by thousands of people who had never met him, and she walked to the microphone. She could not really speak, she has said. When she cries, her voice gets very high, but she felt it was right. She did not plan it. She did not rehearse it. She just walked to the microphone because it felt like the right thing to do. Ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father I could ever imagine, she said. And I just want to say that I love him so much. She was 11 years old. This is what no headline ever captured. Paris Jackson grew up not knowing what normal was. She grew up in Neverland and hotel rooms and borrowed houses in Bahrain and Ireland. She grew up in disguise and behind masks and in the specific kind of protected anonymity that only extreme fame requires. She grew up with a father who was also the most famous person on earth and who worked every single day to make sure that inside their home, he was just her dad. She lost his hand in a crowd once, and he snatched her up and ran. She watched him go to Disneyland in disguise, just to feel normal for a few hours. She heard him tell her, again and again, always be humble. Appreciate what you have. And when he was gone, she walked to a microphone in front of thousands of strangers and said, "I love him so much." That is who Michael Jackson was. Not the tabloid version, not the trial, not the allegations or the documentaries or the headlines. A man who ran when his daughter was lost in a crowd. A man who was happiest when nobody knew his name. A man whose most important lesson to his children was not about talent or ambition or success. It was about humility. Everyone wanted something from him. His daughter just wanted her dad. And for the years she had him, in Neverland, in the hotel rooms, in the pillow forts with Off the Wall playing on repeat, she had exactly that. There is something specific about Paris's account that separates it from every other account of Michael Jackson that has ever been published. It is not the famous moments. It is not the concerts or the records or the legal battles. It is the small things, the things that only a daughter would know. Like the fact that they listened to Off the Wall on repeat in hotel rooms and jumped on the beds. Not Thriller, not Bad. Not the albums the world associates with Michael Jackson at his commercial peak. Off the Wall, the album he made before the world decided who he was, before the machine took full hold, before everything became so enormous that ordinary joy became almost impossible. That was the music Paris grew up with, not the icon's music, her dad's music. Like the fact that she went to his concerts at 6 and 7 years old and watched him perform for crowds of thousands and did not fully understand what she was seeing. She just saw him. She just saw her dad up there, singing, and she thought he was amazing. The scale of the crowd was invisible to her because she was not processing the crowd. She was processing him. Like the fact that he was training her for Hollywood. They would work on improvs together. He told her he wanted her to start acting as early as possible. He had opinions about how to approach performance, about what made someone good at it. He studied the greats, Fred Astaire and others, and he was passing that knowledge on to his daughter in the same careful, considered way that he had absorbed it himself. Like the fact that she cannot name a single favorite song of his. Not because she does not love his music, she does, deeply, but because she loves too many of them. Lost Children, Don't Walk Away. Whatever Happens, the song he did with Carlos Santana. These are not the songs most people name when they talk about Michael Jackson. These are the songs a daughter names when she is talking about her father. Now, everything you have seen so far means nothing compared to this. Paris Jackson spoke at her father's memorial at age 11. She could not prepare for it. She could not rehearse it. When she cries, her voice gets high, and she knew that. But she walked to the microphone anyway, because it felt right. She did not know why. She just knew it was the right thing to do. She said, "Ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father I could ever imagine, and I just want to say that I love him so much." 11 years old, in front of thousands of people, at her father's funeral. She has since said that she does not fully remember making the decision to go to the microphone. It was not a planned act. It was something that happened because it had to happen, because someone who loved him, who knew him as a person and not as an icon, needed to be there at the end, needed to say it, needed the world to hear it from someone who actually knew. He was not what the world said he was. He was a man who ran when his daughter was lost in a crowd. He was a man who wore a disguise to Disneyland just to feel normal. He was a man who told his children to always be humble, to appreciate what they had, to never get big-headed. He was a man who blasted off the wall in hotel rooms while his kids made pillow forts. He was a man who trained his daughter for Hollywood because he saw something in her and wanted to nurture it. He was a father. And the world, which had spent 16 years deciding what he was, never fully understood that. Paris understood it. She understood it at 6 when she lost his hand in the crowd, and he ran to find her. She understood it at 11 when she walked to a microphone she had not planned to approach. She understands it now, as an adult, when she talks about him with the calm certainty of someone who knew him in the most ordinary and irreplaceable way possible. Not as Michael Jackson, as Dad. Everyone wanted something from him. She just wanted him. And for the years she had him, pillow forts and Disneyland in disguise and off the wall on repeat and his hand in the crowd, she had everything. There is one more thing Paris has said that belongs at the end of this story. She was asked what she thinks people are missing from the full picture of who her father was, and she did not talk about the music. She did not talk about the records or the tours or the philanthropy or the catalog or any of the things that the world measures him by. She said, he was really normal. He was just a kind-hearted, always generous person. He was just a sweetheart. Normal, that word, from his daughter, after everything. After Neverland and the allegations and the trials and the exile and the disguises and the crowds and the machine and the money and the fame and the loneliness. Normal. He was happiest when nobody knew his name, when he was in disguise at Disneyland and could walk through the park like a regular person, when he was in a hotel room listening to music with his kids, when he was in a forest in Ireland, walking with Paris, just walking, nobody watching, nothing required of him except to be there. Those were the moments, not the stage, not the spotlight, the forest, the hotel room, the crowd where he lost his daughter's hand and ran to find her. That is who he was to the people who actually knew him. Not the phenomenon, not the most famous person who ever lived. A man who wanted to be normal, who built an entire world trying to approximate normalcy, who wore disguises and traveled in secret and taught his daughter to be humble because he understood, better than anyone, what it costs to forget that lesson. He never forgot it, not really. Under everything the world added to him, the name, the fame, the catalog, the accusations, the acquittal, the debt, the isolation, under all of it, there was still the boy from Gary, Indiana, who just wanted to be like the other kids, who looked out the window at children playing in the street and envied them, who found, briefly, a friend in a eucalyptus grove who treated him like just another kid, who was happiest, his daughter says, when nobody knew who he was. Paris Jackson was 11 years old when she lost him. She walked to a microphone at his funeral and said she loved him. She has spent the years since defending him, calmly, consistently, without drama. Not because she owes it to his legacy, not because she was trained to, but because she knew him. She was there. She was in the pillow fort. She was in the crowd when he snatched her up and ran. She knows who he was, and she has been saying so, quietly and consistently, ever since. Everyone wanted something from her dad. She just loved him. That is the whole story, and it was always the most important one.